Kill me! I'm here! Kill me!
Hey everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with a rant. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, because you're looking at the description, oh, he's gonna rant on Spider-Man 3. That's some well-trodden land. Like, everybody like, that scene where he's emo walking and dancing going down the street. What a dumb scene. That movie couldn't be any dumber than that, right? And if you think that's your opinion, that's great. But to me, that scene, don't get me wrong, terrible. Really bad. Really bad, but it is not even close to the tip top of the awfulness of that movie to me. There are moments in that movie that are far worse. Like, it is, like I said, it is terrible, but far worse scenes happen in that movie. Because to me, I'm all about story. Now, there are exceptions. Like, I really like the movie Pacific Rim, and it is a very poorly made movie in certain regards. The acting is terrible. The story is quite bad. There's a lot of it that's terrible. But I went and saw that movie because I wanted to see giant robots fighting giant kaiju or creatures or aliens or whatever it is, and that's exactly what I got. So I walked out of that movie being like, hell yeah, that's what I wanted. But for the most part, I'm looking for story in a movie, and there are scenes in this movie from a story perspective that are so awful and so and I don't see people. I remember scouring the internet when I watched that movie because I was like outraged, and I never saw people talking about certain parts of that movie that blow my mind with how poorly written they are. And there's four of them in particular that I want to touch on real quick. The one that I was always like, are you effing kidding me? I remember I was watching the movie in the theater, and throughout, like, you know, when you go see a movie in the theater and you've been looking forward to it for a while, you're watching it and you want to like it, right? Like, you want to walk out of that movie being like, at the very least, right? And I remember watching Spider-Man 3 and like going along with it, and I'm like, this isn't good, but it's not terrible, right? And that was through like the whole emo Parker stuff, because I was like, oh well, you know, Sandman is kind of cool. They were bringing him to life, all right. And Spider-Man's on the big screen. I'm seeing Spider-Man. It's gotta be all right, right? And then they have the moment where Peter finds James Franco's goblin, Harry, down in like his little trench there where he's discovered the original Green Goblin's lair, and he's talking to him, and Harry's like talking to like this, yelling at him, and that he killed his father, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a butler shows up. And is like, well, actually, Harry, I found your father, and he clearly died of his own blade, because the blade was right in there. Spider-Man had nothing to do with it. I was like, are you kidding me right now? So let me get this straight. Harry has been going criminally insane for the last X amount of time. He's been so rough that a bomb went off and forever scarred the side of his face. He's been like locking himself in a room and talking to himself in a mirror. He is constantly going on and on about how his former best friend completely screwed him up. And you're watching all this because you're his butler, and you're like, I could give him some information that might make him feel a little bit better, but it's not quite dramatic enough yet. I'm gonna wait. Yeah, I think I'll give it a little bit longer. And then you keep watching him going so insane that he's gonna kill everyone. But then, and you're sitting outside the door being like, he's hatching a lot of plans, but no, I think there might be a more dramatic moment later. And then all of a sudden he gets into an argument with his friend. You're like, ha, my moment. And you show up to tell him, like, come on, that is so stupid on so many levels. It is just, ugh. And then earlier in the movie where the Green Goblin goes and he gets, like, if you haven't seen the movie, the Green Goblin gets amnesia. It's Harry Osborn, played by James Franco. He gets amnesia, the most tired, like, story trope ever. Because I don't know about you, but people do get amnesia. I understand that, but not enough that it should be in a lot of movies or a lot of shows over the years. So when it shows up, I'm like, oh, unless if it's a character that I've never seen before, like if I'm watching like a medical drama like House or something like that, and they introduce a character that has amnesia, I'm like, oh, that could be interesting. But when I'm watching a movie and somebody gets amnesia, I'm like, oh, such convenient writing that they couldn't come up with anything better. And so all of a sudden he's best friends again with Harry, with Peter, right? And then all of a sudden he gets his memory back, and he goes over to see Mary Jane, and he tells Mary Jane that she has to break up with Peter or he'll kill her. And Mary Jane goes and does it. And I'm watching the movie being like, what? Okay, so at this point in the series, Mary Jane knows that her boyfriend is Spider-Man, a guy with powers, a guy that's taken on previous Green Goblins and a guy with an octopus suit. She knows that her boyfriend should be able to kick the butt out of almost anybody, right? She has no idea that Harry is the Green Goblin. She has no reason to think that he has any powers of any kind. She has no reason to think that Harry is in any way a threat, except for to her. But yet she follows, like, if he made her call Peter right there and break up with him, I could have bought it. But no, he has her meet him in the park on a bridge that's probably 50 feet away from Harry, or at least a decent amount of space. And she is a foot away from her boyfriend who has superpowers, but she's so afraid of this dude over here that looks like he's 200 pounds soaking wet, and as far as she knows has no abilities, no weapons, nothing. It's just standing over there in his bloody cardigan. She's like, oh, I can't mess with that guy, even though my boyfriend's Spider-Man. I gotta break up with Spider-Man because that's dramatic. Like, come on, use your brains. But even worse than that, well, maybe not even worse than that, but another thing with Harry that drives me absolutely nuts is how after that butler scene that we talked about earlier, when he finds out that Peter didn't kill his dad, all of a sudden it's like, oh, are we best friends? It's like that scene in Step Brothers where they all of a sudden realize they're best friends, and he's been like hatching his schemes, and he's gonna kill him for the last X amount of time. But as soon as he's like, wait, you didn't kill my dad? That guy said so. I have no reason necessarily to believe that guy. Maybe that guy is just an older man who's confused. Did he do an autopsy? Is he a medical examiner? How did he know that it's a knife? Wait a second. That doesn't make any sense. No, none of that. He's just like instantly like, my God, he's my best friend again. And then they go and fight Sandman and Venom, and they're like literally like high five, and halfway through, maybe not literally, but they pretty much are. They're like, Peter, you're the best. I love you, guy. Like, come on. But the worst, the absolute worst. Well, again, maybe not, because the rest of that's pretty goddamn awful. But the scene that I was like, are you effing kidding me? When I watched it the first time. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you ask me, for the majority of the movie, the character of the Sandman is actually pretty decent, right? They set him up where he's this criminal, right? Who accidentally, they have to, the fact that they made him kill Uncle Ben is awful. It's stupid, but they have to throw that in there, right? Because they have to have some kind of connection to Spider-Man. He can't just be a bad guy. He has to be connected to Spider-Man somehow. Spider-Man's not a hero who saves anybody, right? He only gets involved in situations where he's emotionally connected. Yeah, that's the character. But anyways, so they have to throw it in there that all of a sudden he killed Uncle Ben, and he feels awful. He's just racked with guilt over the fact that he killed this kindly old man, and he gets sent to prison, and the entire time he only did the crimes so that he could get money to help his sick daughter. And he's an anti-hero or an anti-villain, and you're starting to feel for him, right? And that's all. That to me is very interesting. I've always been a big Sandman villain fan. Like, a lot of people don't know that in the comics, he was basically an Avenger. He was I don't know if he ever got officially put into it. I can't remember 100% sure, but he fought with the Avengers for a little while. Like, he's an interesting character, and they made him an interesting figure in the movie. Like, that was kind of cool. I was kind of enjoying that, right? Well, they throw that away in the last half hour because he's going along, he's doing his thing, and all of a sudden Venom shows up to him, and he's like, hey, you want to kill Spider-Man, I want to kill Spider-Man, let's kill Spider-Man together. And Sandman's like, okay. You know, not like he's been set up in the rest of the movie is that he feels guilt over killing somebody, and he's actually not that bad of a guy and wouldn't want to kill anybody. He just needed money to help his daughter, right? That wasn't the rest of the movie. He's a killer all of a sudden, right? Just throw all that rest of that shit out of there, because then they can set up a cool fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin versus Venom and Sandman. Let's just throw away the whole character. And then the fight happens, and Spider-Man and Green Goblin win. And then all of a sudden, he's instantly back to being like, I'm sorry, Spider-Man. I didn't mean to do it. I'm gonna fly away in the wind now. And he flies away in the wind. Like, are you effing kidding me? Can you please give your character a clear motivation, or at the very, like, did he have multiple personalities that you never showed up? Like, did he all of a sudden have some kind of psychotic break that would make me understand why all of a sudden this guy who spent the entire movie apologizing for accidentally killing somebody and explaining that he's not a murderer literally gets told, you're a killer, I'm a killer, let's kill together. And it's like, you got it, buddy. Like, come on. Such garbage. Such a piece of crap film. Ugh. And there's so much more. I could talk. Like, so much more that is wrong with this movie. But those 4 moments are 4 pieces of are so beyond egregious. It is unreal. That movie is atrocious. So that's gonna be it for me in my rant about Spider-Man 3. If you've seen the movie and you agree with me, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, please. I love getting new subscribers. The like button is super helpful, and like I said before, I understand that dancing scene is terrible, but nothing compared to the garbage that came around it. So that's gonna be it for me. I'm Matthew Movies. Have yourself a nice day.